Yo, kamusta? Chris here. So Redragon released a new web camera with 1920 by 1080p resolution, a 5x digital zoom, and a magnetic lens cover, which is quite neat. The Redragon GW910 is an EPTC web camera with 5x digital zoom and adjustable field of view. For those who don't know, EPTC stands for Electronic Pan, Tilt, and Zoom. This means that instead of the physical panning, tilting, and zooming of the camera, it's done digitally. Also, EPTC is great for a single subject who doesn't move that much, or in short, a still subject. And this is the reason why this camera utilizes digital zoom instead of optical zoom. The digital zoom of the Redragon GW910 can run up to 720p resolution. You can adjust the zoom of the camera by pressing the zoom button on top of it. This feature only has a single button. Once you reach the maximum zoom level, it will go back to its initial zoom level. It's not a plus or minus when it comes to this functionality. Later, we'll do a test of the digital zooming of this camera. The Redragon GW910 can also run a maximum of 30 frames per second, and it's optimized for video calling apps such as Skype. The bread and butter of this camera is a 6 double-sided fully coated anti-reflective film optical lens. This lens has fixed focus, meaning the focus will not adjust even if the subject is near or far from the lens. Again, we'll do a test later, so please stay tuned. This web camera also has built-in microphones. They are located at each side of the lens, and you'll easily notice them because of the microphone icons engraved at both sides. Also, these microphones are 2-channel stereo with noise reduction. This camera has a 3-level adjustable ring fill light. You can enable this by pressing the light button at the bottom of the lens. This is a great addition, especially if your environment is dim and you have no sufficient lighting. The Redragon GW910 is a plug-and-play web camera. Just plug in the USB Type-A to the USB port of your computer and you're good to go. No need to download any drivers for this camera to work. Also, it supports both Windows PC and Mac computers, which is pretty neat. You can also rotate the camera 360 degrees and can be tilted up and down. This functionality is a great addition because you can adjust the angle of the camera when you're in an online meeting or doing online streaming. Aside from that, it is covered with a non-slip texture material that is wrapped around the camera. This is good when you're setting up the camera and you have butterfingers. There are 2 ways to mount this web camera. The first one is the traditional way. You can hook it on top of your monitor or your laptop screen. The second one is using a mini tripod. This is very handy, especially if you have a mini tripod. You can place the webcam anywhere depending on what angle you like. As I mentioned earlier, there's a privacy cover included in the package. This cover is magnetic, which can be attached on the top of the lens and at the back of the camera when you're not using it. But this kind of cover can be easily lost, so be very careful when attaching it to the camera. Make sure that it's properly attached so that it will not fall. Aside from that, when the lighting of the camera is turned on and you attach the magnetic cover, the lighting will automatically be turned off. And when you remove it, the lighting will turn on again. And now, let's test the camera. Let's check if it's good or not in different lighting environments. First, let's test it in a dark room. In this testing, the only lighting we're getting is from my monitor. As you can see, the image quality is grainy, but it's much better compared to the web camera of my Acer Predator Helios 300. Also, if your monitor is too bright, the subject looks too exposed. So better lower down your monitor's brightness when you're in a meeting or streaming in a dark or dim environment. Now, if I turn off my monitor and use the 3-way lighting of the camera, the graininess of the image quality increases. So for streamers who are planning to use this web camera in dim or dark rooms, you better lower your monitor's brightness level and prepare some decent lighting. Now, let's test the camera in a well-lighted room. In this testing, the window is opened and the light entering the room directly beams into my face. As you can see here, the subject is overexposed too, just like earlier. I think you just need to find the right amount of light when using this camera. If not, your face will be overexposed or grainy. So in this testing, we're just going to check if the output of the microphone is good or not. You will hear some background noises because I will not edit or I will not clean the audio of the microphone. And this is how it is. So in this testing, we're just going to test the zoom functionality. We're using Google Meet because the zoom functionality doesn't work on the native camera app of Windows 10. So let's begin the testing. So the zoom functionality can be achieved by pressing the button on top of the camera, and once you reach the highest zoom level, it will go back to its initial level once you press again the button. Let's now discuss the pros and cons of this web camera. Let's tackle the pros first. First pro is the three-way lighting. In my opinion, this is really good if you don't have decent lighting. You just need to position the camera well to avoid overexposure. The second pro is the 5-level digital zoom. This is important if you want to reduce or adjust your background. Lastly, the image quality. Actually, the image quality is really good. You just need to find the right amount of lighting that will make the image not too exposed or grainy. As for the cons, the first con is the frames per second this camera can capture. Again, the Redragon GW910 can only capture up to 30 frames per second. If you're going to do online streaming, you might want to have a 60 frames per second web camera. Second con, in my opinion, is that there's no color adjustment. I mean, there's no app you can download and use to adjust the brightness and contrast of the images captured by this camera. Overall, the Redragon GW910 is a good camera, especially if you'll use it in productivity tasks like online meetings. Although there were some shortcomings, it's still manageable. It's easy to use and no additional steps needed for this camera to work. It's a great option when you want to update your laptop's lousy web camera. As for online streaming, you might want to get a higher FPS web camera, but these types of cameras are expensive, and the Redragon GW910 is a cheaper option. And that's it, guys. We reached the end part now. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Till our next, goodbye.